Welcome, learner, to the second lecture on managerial economics. Today we will focus on the scope, uses, roles, and responsibilities of managerial economics. You often heard that economics is the study of scarcity, means comparatively less. But for a manager, it is not just a definition, it is a practical decision making tools. Why? Because manager use limited resources in the best possible way. In this session, we will understand how managerial economics connect theory with real business situation. We will see how economic concepts are applied in the daily managerial decision. In here, we will discuss the important roles a manager play in ensuring the firm's success, especially in competitive and changing market environment. Let us begin by clearly understand what we aim to achieve in today's session. Now, by the end of this lecture, you should be able to learn, define the scope and core areas of managerial economics. The next one is explain the practical uses in business decision or to make decisions in day-to-day life. The next one is distinguish the roles and responsibilities of a managerial economics to analyze the impact of business cycle, or it may be called as trade cycle, on strategy. And last one is relationship with interdisciplinary field and to understand link with statistics, accounting, finance, and marketing. Now, to understand the scope, the decision making core of managerial economics, where you have seen that we must look from the firm point of view, where managerial economics is about applying economic logic to business decision. In here, the decision arises because, as you know, we have a limited number of resources, and these resources are land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and time. So, since these resources are scarce, and manager must be careful while making choices. The scope of managerial economics begin with decision making. Why decision making? For example, they have to decide, should we launch a new product or not, or should we outsource production or not, or should we expand to new market. All this decision was taken by the managerial economics, and then they frame a clear and logical framework to select the best option among all these alternatives. Next, we can talk about the resource allocation. It is not enough to simply have resources. The real challenge is to use them in areas where they create a maximum value for the firm. Now, here you have seen that resource allocation may be utilized in such a way that gives a optimum utilization of resources, or it may be called as optimum profit. Further move to the next slide, that is the cost analysis and market structure, where you have seen that the manager does not wholly depend upon the accounting figure, but they also depend upon the cost analysis, where particular in this section you have seen that this graph, where cost shown in vertical axis and quantity shows in horizontal axis. We have seen that there's a fixed cost and variable cost, where fixed cost it's constant, it does not change with the change in output, and variable cost is change in the level of production. And when we both combine the fixed cost and variable cost, it is called a total cost. Here particular the manager has to decide how much production should be made. They particular produce the goods until the total cost it's equal to total revenue, because in this point it is also called a break even point. In this point there is no profit, no loss. Along with that, consumer also decided the market pricing structure, because we have already seen the cost analysis, but without market structure manager does not analyze the cost. So in here market structure, you have seen that there are different types of market in the economy, and currently there are monopolistic competition and monopoly market run in the economy. So monopolistic competition market is where the firm has the partial control over the prices, but in monopoly firm has fully control over the prices. So in here firm has only one set of rule, that has to maximize the revenue of the firm. So what he does, he particular design the price strategy where he can decided the price in which consumer will be willingness to pay. If they charge the higher prices, consumer will shift to the another good. Now, moving to the next slide, that is advertisement and environmental issue. Many people think that economics is only about the numbers and calculation, but the scope of managerial economics is much wider. It also includes the advertising and environmental issue. And you have seen that advertising is not a promotion, it is an investment, because to invest particular in firm, there is always evaluate the return of investment. So in here they must ask, is the money is spent on advertising increasing the sales and profit? So particular in this section, manager helps in analyzing the advertising costs are justified by the additional revenue generated. But a firm does not operate alone. It works with external environment also. This environment include social factor, political condition, government policies, demographic shift, and macroeconomic trends affecting microeconomic decision. As we have seen that a new government regulation can increase cost or restrict operation, but a change in population demographics can change customer preferences. Sometimes changes can make even a successful business model outdated. So therefore the scope of managerial economics is broad. It not only focuses on internal business decision but considered macroeconomic trend that affect the firm level decision. Before we move on, let's recall the scope of managerial economics. As you have seen, the scope include all factors affecting managerial choice. The first one is decision making plus resource allocation. As you know, the firm decided how much to produce, what to produce, and what prices. So in here manager also decided resource allocation because there are limited number of resources and unlimited ones. Then next there is cost analyzing plus pricing strategy. In cost analyzing and pricing strategy, we have seen the fixed cost variable price, that is the total cost and total revenue and even break even point. Then let's talk about the market competition. In market competition, you have seen there are different numbers of market in the economy, that is the monopolistic and monopoly current run in the economy. So the next one is advertising decision, where is advertising decision is a not for promotion, it is a rate of investment. And the last one is external environment, that is a social political demographic. And so now, moving to the next scope, that is business cycle. It's also called a trade cycle. In business cycle also seem to affect the business decision. Business cycle are regular fluctuation in economic activity in the country, and the various phases constitute business cycle are expansion, peak, recession or contraction or recovery. Therefore, the manager have to modify their plan according to the phase throughout which the decision passing out. Where there is a graph I have been depicted in this, you have seen that there are four types of phases in the economy. The first one is expansion phase, where the gross domestic product GDP has been rises. In this phase, the manager particular focus to increase the production, investment, and profit maximization through demand forecasting and pricing decision. After that, in a peak section, there is a highest level of GDP point. In this point, manager focus on to control the prices and cost, manage risk, avoid over expansion, and maintain stability in particular peak period. But after that, there is a certain recession in the economy, and this period is also called a contraction period where the GDP has been fall. You have seen in this particular graph where the manager has to focus to minimize the cost for survival strategies, pricing adjustment, and liquidity management. After all doing this, again recovery prayer has been started through where the economic improve. When the economic improve, the manager mainly focus on strategic planning, cautious investment, and market investment. When we talk about the contraction and recovery strategies, we have seen that when the economy enters a contraction phase, which we commonly call a recession, GDP falls and overall economic activity slows down. This becomes a real test for the managers where during a recession period, the main focus shift to survival plus liquidity adjustment plus strict cost control. Why? Because consumer spending usually decreases in this phase. So that's why some companies reduce their prices, and this is not a random, it is an economic strategy to maintain sales and ensure steady cash flow when the demand is weak. But when we talk about the contraction phase, after the contraction phase there is recovery phase. In this phase, the economy slowly start improving where business activity increases and consumer confidence return. This is the right time for strategic planning where careful and cautious environment, gradual expansion may be increases. If a manager correctly identify the phase of business cycle in the economy, they can adjust their strategies accordingly. This helps the firm to remain stable during the downturns and grow during recovery. In here, managerial economics does not act as a alone. It has a relationship with other disciplines like economics, that is a conceptual base. Statistics can be described by the future demands and probability where to find the cost and financial data in the accounting where for the capital budgeting and investment decision it may be need of finance, and for demand estimation and consumer behavior we need a marketing. Now, let's recap the uses and relationship of managerial economics, where we have seen the demand forecasting roles. It helps in estimating future demand using tools like elasticity and market analysis, and it important is avoid overproduction and prevent shortage of goods and improve planning. And when we talk about the pricing role in here, managerial economics guide manager in fixing appropriate prices under different market structure, that is cost of production, competitor price, consumer demand, and profit margin. When we talk about the cost control, it can be analyzed the fixed cost and variable cost, whereas short run and long run cost and break even point. This helps in minimizing cost and increase efficiency. When we talk about the profit planning role, it applies the marginal analysis, that is the marginal cost it's equal to marginal revenue to maximize profit and ensure business sustainability. Now, moving to the next, when we talk about the strategic adjustment business cycle, we have already seen the trade cycle, four phases of trade cycle, that is the expansion, peak, contraction, and recovery phase. And the last, we can talk about the linking data, that is the relationship of managerial economy with other disciplinaries, that is the economics, statistics, finance, accounting, and marketing. Moving on to the next slide, that is the role of managerial economics. So in here, managerial economics play a very important role in modern business organization. It provides a scientific base for managerial decisions making and help manager to use limited resources efficiently. Okay, you have seen particular this first role is decision making role. In particular decision making role, managerial economics help manager to choose the best alternative among the option using logical and economical analysis. In here, they decided whether to increase the prices or not, whether to expand the production and not. Where the next one is demand forecasting. It helps in estimating the future demand using tools like elasticity and market analysis. It is very important because to avoid overproduction, prevent shortage of goods, and to improve the planning. Move on to the pricing and profit planning. So the profit planning role includes where the manager economics guided manager in fixing appropriate prices under different market situations, and it considers the cost of production, market condition, competition's price, consumer demand, and profit margin. But pricing may not act as a alone. It also needs a cost. Costs control the prices. So in here, it analyzes the fixed prices and variable cost, short run, long run cost, and even break even point. This helps in minimizing cost and increase the efficiency. Where when we talk about the profit planning role, as you know, the golden rule where the marginal cost it's equal to marginal revenue to maximize profit and ensures business sustainability in the market, where the manager ensures operations remain near optimum output level. In this role of risk management and resource allocation, you have seen that the business is always involved uncertainty and the market conditions is change due to demand fluctuations and investment may not give always the expected return. So in here, what manager economic does? In here, their aim is not to eliminate the risk management, but what they do, they allocate their resources like labor, capital, and land in such a way that gives a maximum output or maximum profit in a optimal way to choose the best budget of machinery, marketing, as well as expansion. Their goal is the highest return from the scarce resources. The next responsibility is ensuring rationality, where in here we have seen that the manager should be a rational thinker, economic thinker, or logical thinker. It may not be used their gut feeling or guesswork. The next one is efficient resource utilization. Managers should use the proper utilization of their resources like land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, which give a maximum profit optimization. The next one is decision aligned with organization objective. The manager aim is to maximize profit to minimize the cost. Growth is very important, and the next one is market leadership. The next is avoid waste of money, material, and effort. To in this particular section, it is very important for the manager to adopt economic environment and business should be run in a macroeconomic level also to see the economic fluctuations like inflation, government policies, business cycle, and market competition because they may be focused on long-term sustainability, not a short-term profit. Let's conclude the final summary of role and responsibility. As you have seen that the role is action oriented and responsibility is duty oriented. What we have studied in role the manager should forecast the demand for future product, the demand for consumer. They should fix their prices. Again, manage cost. Manage cost means minimize the cost with profit maximization. Again, plan profit. And the last one is handle business cycle shift. They also see the economic fluctuations in the economy in a macroeconomic level. When we talk about the responsibility is duty oriented, where managers should ensure rationality and efficiency. They should economic logical thinker in a efficient way, or maybe called as efficient use of their resources like land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Align decisions with objective to adapt the environment and to maintain a long-term sustainability profit, not a short-term. The next responsibility is adopting to change and long-term stability. As you know very well that to sustain in a long term or to stay in the market, the manager should adopt certain parameters, that is track inflation, interest rate and policy changes. To remain stay in the market, manager should seek the macroeconomic level also to monitor the inflation, to monitor the government policies, to monitor the monetary policies and changes, also to monitor the market competition and consumer demand. So in long term stability, the manager should always do one thing, that manager balance short-run profit with sustainability, avoid decisions that damage quality or brand trust, and focus on stable growth throughout the informed planning. Thank you very much.